Good morning, Ryan. How costly is the injury to Cam Brown for you?
Yeah, it's very costly. Cam, came with experience this season and in a position that we couldn't afford to lose anyone. So to lose Cam, it's a significant hit. But obviously wish he gets a healthy procedure and healthy recovery. But really feel bad for Cam and his family.
Wisconsin just canceled their game with Purdue. Do you feel like every time you play, it's a victory?
Sort of. Yeah. It's week to week. It's day to day for sure. And you hold your breath all week. You hold your breath the day of. So yeah.
Thank you.
Next up, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row. Spencer?
Ryan, when you guys get the defensive line play that you got on Saturday against Penn State, does that kind of give you some ease after what you guys saw in the first game as far as quarterback run, everything that Nebraska was able to do against you? You see that progress from game 1 to game 2 from the defensive line. Does that just put you at ease a little bit more?
Well, one of the concerns going in was, the interior defensive line, replacing guys like, Chase on the outside, Devon Hamilton. So to see those guys play the way they did, that was big. I thought we really played well on both sides of the ball up front. But the defensive line really created a lot of disruption, and that was the difference, I think, in the game defensively.
All right, we'll go next to Austin Ward from Letterman Row. Austin.
Ryan, when you watched the film on Saturday night, and we know it was a comfortable win, was there anything that you liked more than you thought leaving the field, or disliked more than you thought?
I thought the physicality of watching it and how hard we played was excellent. Even more so watching the film, I thought, that our running backs ran hard. I thought, on defense, we ran to the ball, we tackled, we hit hard. Our defensive line created a lot of disruption. So that was really good. There's just some things that we need to clean up, just some silly penalties, the snap over our head on the 1 yard line, missed field goals, were just ridiculous. Those are chip shots. So there's some things in the special teams that we got to clean up for sure. And just some, different penalties here and there, a couple late hits, some are more egregious than others. And then, so I think when you look at that was kind of coming off the film, that's what we recognized.
That I feel like we've been talking about the potential for maybe some of those jet sweeps when Justin's under center and getting, whether it's Garrett or anybody else involved for over a year or so. What is it about that scheme, that play that you like, and what threat does that add to the offense?
Well, it gives us a perimeter run. JK was a little bit different back. And so this gives us a way to get the ball in the perimeter a little bit more. We used it with Paris Campbell a bunch a couple of years ago. Garrett and Chris really have great speed to get the ball in the perimeter. And it's a great way to get it out there. But it only works at the tight ends, and Chris comes down and cracks that safety. So the perimeter blocking is critical. Just gives us a different element, way to make the defense defend the entire field.
Thanks, Ryan.
Next up, Steve Hellwagon from 24/7 Sports. Steve?
Hey, Coach. Your defense did an outstanding job in the first half, 75 yards total offense, but it looked like 250 in the second half and 3 75-yard touchdown drives for Penn State. I don't know. I don't know that there's one size fits all solution to what was the difference. It seemed like you guys were playing with a lead and maybe content to let them take some underneath stuff. But what was maybe different about what Penn State was able to do to you guys in the second half?
I think really the two big catches by Dotson, really Sean was right there on both of those plays. The kid just made a tremendous play, and that was a bunch of offense. I don't know, maybe 75 yards or something like that. I think that was really the biggest thing. They did hit some passes, and like you said, as it got later on, we started to soften up a little bit and kind of keep us in front of us. And they had some big plays. They made some plays, and that was good. They made a couple passes, but I really think the biggest difference was those two long passes, and the kid just made two tremendous catches. If that doesn't happen, the numbers aren't as strong, I don't think.
Have you guys had any kind of a audience with the Big Ten about what happened at the end of the half. It would seem the replay official in a situation like that ought to be able to grab a stopwatch and say that was 2.5 seconds and dispense with it. But I don't know what any kind of audience with them or conversation.
Yeah, there was. You know, I don't really want to get into the details of it all, but yeah, I mean, apparently there was more than 2 seconds on the clock, which I still don't understand. I didn't really get into it very much, and I'm just going to move on.
Yep. Thanks.
Yep.
All righty, next up, we'll go to Bill Landis from The Athletic. Bill.
Ryan, you guys started playing with two tight ends a little more last year than a team has done in the past, and it seems like that's the case this year, if not more. And it also seems like you're throwing more when you have two tight ends on the field. I was just wondering if that was an emphasis for you guys coming in, or maybe how you wanted to see that kind of package with two tight ends expand this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we did last year, like you said. It's something that, you know, we look at and try to figure out, you know, what gives us the best opportunity to move the ball. And it could be with two tight ends. It could be with three wide receivers. And it kind of changes week in and week out. And, you know, I think having, you know, Rutgers and Luke on the field as two guys who have played a lot of football for us really helps us. I also think having Jameson on the field, having Jackson, Julian, those guys on the field gives us some big playability. So we just kind of look at it on a game-to-game basis, what gives us the best chance schematically, and then if that matches up with our personnel, then we go with it from there. And there's times in games where, you know, it's working and you just keep going with it. So if it isn't, we kind of pivot to another area, but it's kind of a week-to-week.
And I was interested in your perspective as an offensive guy on some of the stuff your defense was doing against Penn State when you put, you know, 6 or 7 guys up on the line, and sometimes 5 will come, sometimes 3 will come. It's kind of, I don't know, pick your poison, I guess, when you ever get into situations. As an offensive coordinator, what are the difficulties in trying to ID that kind of stuff and figure out where the pressure might be coming from throughout a game?
Yeah, I thought we did a good job of mixing that up. I think there's two things at once. There's spacing in terms of where the guys are aligned, and secondly, there's personnel. So, you know, you can overload certain blitzes, or you can get a matchup issue. You can get a big guy onto a running back, or you can get a guy like Baron Browning on a running back, you know, away from the slide. You know, they have to make a decision on offense how they want to identify the spacing, but then they also the matchup. And, you know, you can put them in kind of a bind right there, and they have to make a decision quickly on how they're going to protect it. Maybe you can get them schematically, or maybe you can just beat them with personnel. So it's a combination of those two things.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, next up, we'll go to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
I think you're on mute, Bill. Can't hear you. No. So go on to the next one, I think.
All right, we'll come back to Bill. We'll go to Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch. Joey.
Ryan, how different is your schedule this week with having today off with election day? How did you guys kind of like reconfigure practice schedule for this week?
Yeah, it's significantly different. We practiced yesterday, and today's off. So it's very different. That's kind of out of our routine, and we're just making it work. We really didn't do much on Sunday. We met Mick Ranham. We had our victory meal and get everybody out of here. Practice yesterday, had a good practice, really good practice, very spirited. And now the guys, have today to catch their breath, and then we'll just come back with a normal Wednesday on Wednesday.
And what did you think of having this day off in general across the country?
I mean, it's the same for everybody across the board. So we just have to handle it better than Rutgers. But yeah, it is what it is. I think just about all of our guys and coaches have already voted. So it is what it is. But we're just going to handle it just hopefully better than our opponent.
And back to Bill Rabinowitz from the Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Still can't hear him.
No.
That's all right. Just move on, he said.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned that, you couldn't really afford to lose anyone at corner. So who are some of the guys behind Sean Wade and Sevin Banks who you guys really need to step up right now?
I think Tarek Johnson has to step up. I think Brian Watts has to step up. Hoping to get Legend back here, get him on the field. You know, Marcus Williamson may have to do a little bit of that cross work just to be ready to go. You know, so those guys are going to have to step up in a big way. You know, some of the younger guys, Cam Martinez, you know, we're going to have to get those guys ready and play with some depth.
Looked like you guys had, you know, Lathan Ransom there in the game a little bit at the end against Penn State as well. Is he a guy who's kind of making a push for playing time right now?
Yeah, he is. He is. He can do some different things. He can play safety. He can play nickel. He's shown that he can. You know, he came in the summer, didn't have preseason, so he was a little bit behind the 8 ball. But really, everybody was coming in because they didn't really have an off season with everything that went on this spring. But he's a younger guy who's really, you know, started to come on, and hopefully we can get some really good play with out of him as we get, you know, towards the middle of November, early December.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, we'll go next to Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com. Nathan.
Ryan, you mentioned the missed chip shots. Do you expect to be without Blake for a while? And is Jake Seibert an option at all for that spot?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how long it's going to be with Blake. You know, if he'll be ready tomorrow or it's kind of a day-to-day thing. But yeah, Jake's definitely an option. You know, he came here for a reason, and especially now with the rule where this year really doesn't count, he's definitely an option.
And same with Luke Farrell. Do you expect that to be a long-term situation? And what does it mean, even though you've got other capable tight ends, to maybe if he has to come out of that rotation even for a short amount of time?
Yeah, I know we got a good room there, a lot of depth. So, you know, if Luke's not able to go, then we have guys who are capable right behind him.
All right, we'll go next to Dave Biddle from 247 Sports. Dave.
Hi, Ryan. How do you feel like Seven and Shaun Wade are performing as a starting corner so far?
You know, I thought they played well. You know, Dotson made some really good plays, but, you know, on those 2 long ones, I thought Shaun was right there. The kid just made 2 remarkable catches, and that's part of playing corner. And, you know, they're going to make some catches on you. But overall, I thought the first 2 games they played well. I think there's some things maybe, you know, they'd like to have back in the last game, but overall we're getting solid play out of them. And I think if they just keep growing and keep working and they're in those spots and keep covering like that, they're going to get some balls. You know, they're going to have their fair share of shots to make interceptions and PBUs. So just keep building. And each year you get to see how you're going to get attacked differently. And so, you know, go back to the film and figure out how teams are trying to attack us this year and learn from it and grow and just get stronger as the season goes on.
And you mentioned Tyreek Johnson earlier, you know, former 5-star recruit, you know, just in his third year sophomore. What does he need to do better, and what do you like about his game?
Well, you know, he's been here for a while and he has experience. He knows the defense. You know, he's got a good feel for where he needs to be on the field. And so, yeah, just, you know, consistency. And I think, you know, now that we, you know, we don't have Cam, you know, he's going to have to really step up.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Doug Lemarese from Cleveland.com. Doug.
Ryan, I don't know if this will be an easy one to answer. There are lots of great assistant coaches, and I assume most assistant coaches would like to be a head coach someday. But I also think there probably are some guys who are great assistants, and maybe they're better at that. There are some guys who are great head coaches and are maybe better head coaches than they were assistants. What is it? What's the difference? What characteristics do you maybe see in guys of like, hey, this guy is a great assistant, but I see this in him that, man, I think he can be a great head coach. We know the job's different, but what are the key components that are different?
That's a good question, Doug. You know, it's probably a long answer. I think there are a lot of different styles probably of leadership in terms of being a head football coach. I think there are some guys who really aren't offense, really aren't defense. They just sort of manage the whole operation. They do a great job recruiting and they coach the coaches. Then I think there's, you know, the coach who really is, you know, heavy on the offensive side. And then there's the coaches who are heavy on the defensive side. And I think the thing that no matter what you coach or how you do it, you have to understand how to motivate everybody in the building, how to show that you care about them and have the strength to lead every day and multitask. And I think that's, you know, communicating is critical. And I can't really say there's like one thing to say, well, you know, that guy would be a great head coach, because certainly sometimes it's the situation, it's the circumstances for which, you know, you're in. But hiring a good staff is critical. and certainly the culture that you building a vision, and then being able to see it through, and being strong, being able to handle adversity, and having a really good plan of where you want to go, being able to see around corners, and having confidence. Those are some of the things. They're not all of them, but without, being able to spend an hour talking about it, those are just, kind of a snapshot and some thoughts.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, we will go next to Patrick Murphy, 247 Sports. Patrick.
Ryan, you and Greg spent a few years together here, Shiano, that is. He talked about your relationship yesterday on his press conference, but I'm just curious, things you learned from him. Obviously, he spent time as a head coach before. What was your few years like when you were working with Greg?
Yeah, first off, when we first got here, just a lot of respect for the way he went about his business every day. And then, when everything went down that summer, leading into, taking over for those first 3 games in the preseason, he was a huge help to me. Just a great resource, really helped me in terms of just navigating through that preseason in the first 3 games. So forever indebted for him for that. And then just watching the way he, really just coached the coaches. He, he's a relentless recruiter, really good communicator. Again, can see the issues that are coming down the road, can get out in front of things really well. And so, when you combine all those things, there's a lot to learn from there. And it's no surprise, you can already see, how well things are going at Rutgers, how, that team looks. And, I think he's going to build something really good there.
I was going to follow up with that. Obviously, some transfers in at Rutgers, but a different team this year with him kind of leading things and how he's doing things. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the team, the first game, they beat Michigan State pretty soundly. So that's, significant right off the bat. And then when you watch them on both sides of the ball, they're playing hard. He's brought in some different talent in there, and they're playing, with some energy. They're playing tough, playing smart. So you can already see the impact that he and his staff are having. So, even this week, I mean, we got to make sure that we're on top of our game. This team would want nothing more than come in and, get this game into the fourth quarter. So we got to do a great job recognizing, the challenge that they provide in all 3 phases, and playing, as fast as we possibly can. We got to continue to play like we did in the Penn State game, physical, with energy, and fast. And the big message has been this week, how can we do things better? How can we practice better? How can we coach better? How can we teach better? How can we listen better? How can we protect ourselves from this virus better? How can we sleep better, eat better? Everything has to be better. If we want to be great, that's what we have to focus on. If we just want to be just another team, then just to continue to do what we're doing. But if we want to be great, we got to clean all these things up. We got to get better in all those areas. And if we add that all up at the end of the week, we'll keep growing to get better. So I went off on a tangent there, but that's some thoughts that are going through our head as we get into this week and we play Rutgers. But a big challenge with Greg and Rutgers coming in here.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, next up, Tony Gerdeman, Buckeye Scoop. Tony.
Ryan, after watching that film, what did you think of Jonathan Cooper's performance?
Really good, really disruptive, played hard. There was one clip where he took the tight end and just knocked him in the backfield. He was disruptive. He played like a guy who was dying to play, a month ago that didn't have football. He played hungry, played with passion, and it was cool to see, somebody with the block O on his chest play as hard as he did, and that was really awesome. And it's such a big game for us. I'm proud of the way Coop played.
Then I guess on the opposite end of that, what did you think of your red zone offense? Failed to score touchdowns 3 times in there. What kind of went wrong?
Yeah, I thought we did some good things down there. I thought the big thing early on was getting those couple hard runs in there. Penn State does a good job in the red zone. We get the ball all the way down to the 1. The ball gets snapped over our head, and then we still find a way to score a touchdown during that time. That was like almost scoring twice. Then we score again, and we get moved back on a penalty. We missed the fade to Garrett, which broke my heart. So I mean, I think we did some really good things down there. Penn State's very good in the red zone. So overall, I thought it was good. I mean, I think if we make those couple chip shots, at the end of the game, you know, it was more about eating up the clock than it was trying to score. So, you know, was it perfect down there? No, but I thought it was good, and we can keep getting better down there.
All right, next up, Craig Mertz from the Associated Press. Craig.
Hi, Ryan. Just in general, you played in an empty stadium at home and on the road. Just your thoughts. Is there really a home field advantage in college football anymore?
I think going on the road, there's just a lot of distractions now, probably more than ever, just because of how different it is to travel. There's just different things you have to go through. You know, the buses are all spread out. You know, the plane ride's a little bit different. Getting to the hotel, there's just not as much group activity. It's a lot really spread out in terms of your own rooms. You know, you dress in the hotel, the locker rooms. So it's just very, very different, and it just changes your routine. Being on the field and playing in the game without a crowd is very, very different for sure. I don't think it's the same. But you know, they do pipe in a ton of noise. You know, I don't know. It's probably not, you know, the games I see on TV, you don't feel that, but you know, there's 90 decibels going on in the game. Sometimes it's louder than being in a stadium. It's very, very difficult to communicate. And I don't know, you know, if that really shows on during the game when you're watching it on TV. But trying to, you know, turn up to 90 decibels in your house and try to communicate with somebody with a mask on, it's virtually impossible. I mean, it's really hard. And then it's banging around in the stadium because there's no fans to absorb the sound. So it's still not easy, but it's very different than having, you know, 105, 107,000 people in the stands.
Can I just follow up, Ryan? Do you think they should reduce it? Is that 70 or 90? Is that too loud then for trying to communicate?
Well, I think it's very hard. I think, you know, they limit the amount of people that are actually on headsets to graduate assistants and full-time coaches. So if you're trying to communicate to anybody other than that, and they have the crowd noise up to 90s, the only time that the rule is it's at 70 when the center's over the ball. So any other time they can crank it up to 90, which is very, very hard to communicate. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's what was agreed upon, but it's a major challenge.
All right, we will go now to Bill Rabinowitz from Columbus Dispatch. Bill.
Can you hear me now? I hope so.
Yeah, we got you, brother.
Thank you. Sorry. It's kind of a tough question for you to answer, I'm sure, and you maybe addressed it a couple questions ago. But the idea, I mean, Penn State we knew was going to be perhaps your toughest test. Obviously, you've got Michigan at the end. You've got Rutgers, a huge underdog. You've got a stretch here. How do you keep your guys from getting complacent and taking, you know, just taking a deep breath? I mean, how do you fight that?
Well, it's what we want. Is just, you know, do we want to be great? And if we do, then we have to bring it every week. And we know that, but it's just a matter of what do you want as a team? Do you just want to be average, or do you want to be great, or do you want to be just pretty good? And if we're chasing greatness, if that's what we really want to be, then every day we should be going after this thing 100 miles an hour. And it doesn't matter who we're playing. It shouldn't matter. It's more about us. And that's what we're chasing right now. And we're not there. We're not close. So we got to prove it. And you know, it's all three phases. And hopefully we get close at some point. But right now we got a long way to go. And so every time we get out there on Saturday, it's an opportunity to show the nation that we're close to being great. But we're on a journey right now, and we're not great right now. So I think that's what we got to understand the challenges, and we got to keep chasing it.
And one more question about the defensive line, particularly the interior guys and Tommy Togiai had 3 sacks, and obviously sacks are often a group effort. But what does he give you, especially considering that was a question mark coming into the year?
Well, I mean, he's given us a lot already, a lot of play, a lot of disruption, a lot of tackles. I think he had 7 tackles in a game, 3 sacks. I mean, a lot of production. And then Haskell coming in and being able to play with some depth there has been huge. And I think that this group is a little bit different, you know. And we got a lot of guys who can play. And when Larry's sending in different guys and keeping them fresh and keeping that snap, you know, count in that 30, 40 range, it really shows. You know, we can roll fresh guys in there. And so, you know, we'll play as many guys that you know, we think have the opportunity to play at a championship level. And And so, yeah, I mean, Tommy's been big for us, and hopefully we can keep building on it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, got time for one more questioner. We'll go with Brendan Gulick from Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated. Brendan.
Coach, I want to piggyback off something you talked about here earlier. A lot of differences with the travel. You referenced the busing situation, the planes, different hotel rooms, all that stuff. Are you comfortable now that you've gone through it and it's more than just seeing it on paper? Are you comfortable with what the Big Ten has put in place? And are you willing to share anything that, maybe you'd like to see even altered moving forward here?
Well, I think we've done a really good job in-house of the testing and making sure that everybody who's in the travel party is tested. I think we've done a good job of de-densifying the buses, done a really good job on the planes. The flight personnel are not allowed to walk up and down the aisles. We have a lot of protocol in place there. I think we did a good job at the hotel. We were able to secure the entire hotel and really limit the exposure there. So when you start to go through all those things, I think we did as good a job as you could do. But it's just like anything else. If one person gets it and exposes others, that's where it can get out of hand. And we just cannot stop focusing on that. And we have to continue to assume that everybody on the team, every coach, every person has it. And if you continue to wear your mask, if you continue to distance yourself the best you can, it gives you the best chance. But, we test the game of, I think it's right before noon. And then, make sure that everybody in that travel party, everybody's going to be in that locker room at that moment right there, that night is negative. And that gives us peace of mind, obviously, moving forward. So we'll keep working, keep learning about it, and try to do the best we can. But it is day to day.
You also talked about the team's desire to want to be great as opposed to be average, but that you still feel you have a long way to go. Can you enlighten us a bit on the general level of focus, the attention to detail? Are you pleased with where they are from that perspective?
I thought the way we played on Saturday, it was excellent. I did. It's just so many things that we need to grow upon, clean up. Some guys in there who really are doing it for the first time. And so there's so many opportunities. There's so much meat on the bone. And I thought we started off good yesterday, but it's got to continue through the end of the week. We just got to keep working to get better and just becoming pros at our craft. Taking meetings to the field and understanding that now as the season goes on, defenses and offenses and special teams, they're going to start adjusting. So, we have to change things up. And then with limited reps, we got to be able to put it on the field at a high level and then have competitive excellence. And so I think some guys are doing a little better job than others. And we'll just keep getting better and keep coaching. That's what this thing's all about. It's not about who's the best team at the beginning of the year. It's who's the best team at the end of the season. And so that's it. And again, we didn't really have much of a preseason, didn't have spring ball. So this is a huge opportunity for us to grow, to get better. And Saturday is a huge opportunity to take the next step. So that's what we'll be focused on.
Hey, Ryan, relative to that testing issue, can you give us any clarity on what happened with Justin Hilliard on Saturday and how that fits into what the protocol is that you guys use?
Yeah, so Justin got a false positive. He then took a PCR, and that was confirmed that he was negative. But the way that the Big Ten protocol is that he was still not allowed to play, which is about as heart-wrenching as you could imagine. And so we talked about it before the game as a team, that we're going to keep Justin in the back of our mind. We're not really sure, why that happened to him, but maybe that was some sort of intervention or whatever. But we felt awful for Justin, and I know it's something that is being discussed and continually be discussed. Try to figure out ways to make it better, but that was the policy that was in place, and so I know the Big Ten's continually talking about it and try to figure out what's the best thing moving forward.
All right. Thank you for your time today, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
And we'll be joined by Coach Kerry Combs in just a couple minutes. So hang tight.